Very good. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Revolved Realty Real Talk Live show. Back in the Madison studio with my old buddy, Stephen Allen. How are you, man?
Doing awesome.
Doing awesome.
Yes.
When are you not doing awesome?
Never.
I don't think I've ever heard you complain.
No, I don't. I don't have time to complain.
Wow. There's no future in it,
No,
right?
absolutely not.
All right. Hey, if you are joining us this morning, do us a favor, get this shared out. Did you share it out?
I did.
See, Chelsea always does this for me, so I'm like, how do I do this? All right. If you are joining us, do share it out. Let us know that you can hear us and everything is going well. This is the Real Talk Live show. Tim Knox, Zach Walker is out of town. He's actually gone on I don't know if you call it a relief mission, but he's going somewhere where there have been floods to help rebuild some stuff. Nice. Zach has way more energy than I do.
Get back from out of country?
He just got back from a week-long mission trip.
Wow.
So, very helpful young man. He's like a big 12-year-old. You give him a hammer and get out of his way. So, and Chelsea is a little busy this morning, so she is not with us. So, Stephen is here, and it is a good morning for us here because we are going to be talking about the City of Huntsville Down Payment Assistance Program. And before we do that, how are things in the mortgage world? How are rates?
Rates are actually low.
They were going up for a while.
But, we've seen rates right now at a low. They kind of fluctuate on a day-to-day basis. I just locked one recently at 3.875.
Wow, really?
And, it's really, you can still see those type of rates out there right now. I know a lot of people thought they were gone forever, but they're still there.
Did we get north of 5 at one point?
For a while back in
that.
October, August timeframe, we were back up into the 5s. But,
and now we're back down around the upper 3s?
No, we're not that low. That was a really good buyer, but we have right now, it's about a 4.25, 4.5 range is the common.
Which is still not bad. I remember buying a house, and this is I know I look young. I'm really not. I bought a house, I believe, in like 1982, and I for the life of me, I believe it was like a 14% adjustable rate mortgage.
Oh, yeah. That was common then.
Wow.
I know my parents were like 15 to 16% when they bought their home.
People now would just freak out on that. So,
imagine that interest deduction.
And one thing about interest rates, there is still the ability for folks to buy down points to get that rate lower. How does that work?
Buying down points is a great way. A lot of people think that all their money has to go to closing costs, but really, if you can get creative with it, you can not only accomplish satisfying your down payment, but you can also lower your monthly payment. Yeah,
I know that's one of the deals you did for me was rather than putting down the money as a down payment, which is what we're going to talk about, they actually took some of that down payment money and paid down points, and over the life of the loan saved I want to say $80,000 over the life of the loan.
Yeah, and it was big. They were looking to put like a big chunk down as a down payment. It just didn't make sense. We were able to buy them 2 points also and lower that rate. And when you lower that rate, man, that makes all the difference in that monthly payment.
That good old compound interest, man.
That's huge.
Yeah. Hey, well, let's talk about the Huntsville Down Payment Assistance Program. And again, thank you for joining us this morning, if you will, on Facebook Live. Share this out. Help us get the word out. The good old city of Huntsville, I want to say out of the goodness of their heart, but we all know better than that. They have this thing now, and correct me if I'm wrong, is this new or has it been around a while?
It's been around. It kind of disappeared there at the end of last year because they had to revamp it to kind of match some of the changing regulations. But it's back. It's got some changes. It's still got some of the same things that were involved in the first go-around of the program, but all in all, it's kind of went through a revamping.
Yeah. So it is basically, this is the city of Huntsville. Yeah. Is this through HUD?
It's a program that complies with HUD.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be HUD housing.
No, by no means. This is just specifically Huntsville's down payment program.
Okay.
But it does comply with the HUD guidelines.
So basically what this is a program the city of Huntsville has where if you meet certain guidelines, they will assist you with down payment money for a house. And that can be existing, it can be new construction. Give us kind of an overview quickly, and then we'll dive in.
So really the main thing is for an existing home, you can get up to $7,500 for the down payment and closing cost coverage.
Okay.
On new homes, you can get up to $10,000. So it just varies depending on if it's a new construction or if it's pre-existing.
Okay. And let's talk about the income limits on this, because this is, I think, really geared more toward what they call the low to moderate income families.
Yes.
With, for example, a family, if it's just one person, the income requirement is $44,100. Two, it's $50,400. If you're a family of four, that goes up to $62,950.
Right.
That's your max income that you can bring in and still qualify for the assistance.
Right.
Okay. Here is, you and I talk about this program a lot because I'm a little confused. No. Explain the process. If someone, okay, I'm going to represent buyers and sellers. And as you know, when I represent buyers, I am always helping them, pointing them in a direction toward funding and that sort of thing. Explain how this particular process works, because this is not just if you meet the requirements, we will give you X in down payment money. This also is something that affects the seller. So talk about the process itself.
So really the biggest thing that affects the seller is you have to go through a home inspection. And that home inspection is different from what realtors would consider a traditional home inspection.
This is a home inspection by a city building inspector?
This is by the city building inspector, who is also the code enforcer.
Oh,
and so
enforcer.
Really, yeah, there's
I've always wanted that on a business card.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Tim Knox, enforcer.
Hey, you can do it.
I can. That's $50 at Vistaprint. Anyway, go ahead.
So with the seller's liability, I'll call it, is they have to agree, both the seller and the seller's agent have to agree to sign a document that allows the inspection by the city of Huntsville to be done. Mm-hmm. Here's where it gets fun. Regardless, there's a whole slew of items that we can get into that they look at, but regardless of whether or not this buyer decides to move forward with the home purchase, the seller is on the hook to do those repairs. Okay? So if the seller says, hey, they tell me I need to replace my whole roof and I need to repaint my whole home, I don't have the money for it, the buyer say, hey, I'm backing out, does not mean the seller now does not have to do those repairs, because if the city of Huntsville has deemed these repairs are necessary and the seller refuses to do it in a certain period of time, they can condemn and will condemn the home.
Okay, here's where I kind of part ways with this. Because basically what you are saying is, if a buyer wants to use the City of Huntsville Down Payment Assistance Program, they find the house, and the house can't be, more than 150?
If it's a pre-existing home, $152,000 is the max home purchase price.
Okay, and if it's
new, it's $224,000.
All right, so they find an existing house, $150,000 house. They're going to use this down payment assistance program, which means that property is going to be inspected by a City of Huntsville building inspector, not just like a Tim McNeese or someone like that. Whatever issues are found, there is no there's no request for repairs going back and forth at this point.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. So rather than having the option of saying, I'm not going to make those repairs, I reject your offer, and then moving on, the seller is now responsible for making the repairs that the City of Huntsville has decided that needs to be made, whether or not that buyer buys or not.
You are spot on.
I don't get this. All right. I have to tell you, if I was representing the seller in this deal, I'm not sure I would recommend they accept anything that has this tied to it, simply because what if they've got a $150,000 house? It's a 30-year-old house.
Sure.
HVAC is original, roof is original. The City of Huntsville building inspector comes in and says, you've got to replace the roof. You've got to replace the HVAC. You've got to do this. My seller could be on the hook for $10,000 to $20,000 easily in repairs that, if are not made, the city can condemn the property.
The inspector will come back out for a re-inspection, and if those repairs are not completed,
regardless of whether the house was sold or not.
Correct.
Yes. Okay, help me. You're much more level-headed than I. Help me see the logic in that portion. I think it's great that they want to offer down payment assistance.
It's definitely a buyer's program. Okay,
You think?
The seller, there is more liability for the seller than there is for the buyer. Mm-hmm. Here's where I feel that it's possible to make it make sense. If you're going to do this, agree to have a pre-contract home inspection done.
Okay.
And before you ever put a contract on that property, bring one of your home inspectors in, and this would be more like your Tim McNeese or someone like that, and have a home inspection done. Tell them what program you're looking to do. Maybe they'll look a little bit more granular at the property, and really have them just look it up and down and see if it's something that's going to be worthwhile. I think that's going to give your buyer some, sense of security, as well as your seller.
I don't know. Is there anything that can be put in the contract up front that would let the seller off the hook?
No.
Nothing at all.
Based on this document here that I'm looking at, regardless if it's in the contract, you still have to sign a contract that the seller as well as the agent representing the seller has to sign. And this is going direct to the city of Huntsville.
Okay, so this is the document that the homeowner, and if I was the agent, I would have to sign this. As the owner of the above referenced property, I agree for the property to be inspected by the city of Huntsville code inspector to ensure that the property meets the minimum housing code standards for the city of Huntsville. Now, the city of Huntsville does not own single-family homes. They own, apartments, that sort of thing? And is that what they're basing this code on? Do you know? If they're saying meets the minimum housing code standard for the city of Huntsville, and the city of Huntsville doesn't deal in residential property,
the answer to that's on the code enforcement checklist. This is actually complying with the unsafe building abatement code. So what that means,
okay,
I don't know.
So for example, like in residential real estate, we have our paragraph 4, which is the health system safety.
Sure.
Saying that for this home to sell, the electrical has to be safe, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and ideally
but they're going way above and beyond that.
I mean, yeah, they are going above and beyond that. Of course, the electrical, that's one of the primary things to it. They want the plumbing good, the electrical good. But it goes beyond that for the exterior. They cannot have any paint missing, peeling, flaking, or cracked, or it must be addressed. Roof shingles missing has to be addressed. Stairs, railing, porch flooring cannot be damaged or rotted. Columns cannot be damaged or rotted. Window panes cannot be damaged or rotted, which, that's common to see.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's every old house.
Right.
Well, going further on this is I understand that I will be responsible for making any necessary repairs cited by the code inspector that do not meet the minimum City of Huntsville housing code, regardless of whether the current prospective buyer completes the purchase of the property. I'm struggling to see why anyone. I guess if you're doing new construction and you know that the house is going to pass whatever.
Sure.
But again, we see a lot of older homes. I've got one right now that's 50 years old, and even though the house is in good shape, if the city building code inspector came through, I know that a lot of the things you talk about on the list, the roof has got some age on it, there's cracking paint. They could literally come in and say, if you do not repaint the entire house, replace the roof, get everything up to code, we are going to condemn your home.
With the roof, with regards to that, it says on here shingles missing or damaged. I don't know if they're going to look so much at age, but the part that I'm not sure about is it does say et cetera.
Et cetera. What is in et cetera?
So that's up for interpretation of the code enforcer.
Yeah. So the question becomes is this a good program for everyone involved? I think it's a good program, certainly for the borrower, who would like that. And what's the down payment assistance amount that they will do?
$7,500 for a pre-existing home, $10,000 for new construction.
Okay. So it's a good idea for them, but again, on the seller side, I'm struggling to see how this why any seller, unless they are, again, a new home, why they would agree to do this.
Think about this, though, Tim. Let's pivot over to new construction. The only thing that has to be done in new construction is you have to be given a certificate of occupancy.
Okay, so there is not the inspection.
This list does not really apply for that. I'm sure this list they have to go through, and they have to do this, but getting a certificate of occupancy on a new construction property is not anywhere near. And with that, you're more apt to find homes that are up in the $224,000 range limit. And I think that's where you're probably finding your bread and butter or the sweet spot of this program is going to be in new construction.
Okay, so if I've got new construction in the 150 to 2 1/4 range, whatever, there is not this inspection. There is not the danger that the city is going to come in and condemn my property. I mean, it's new construction.
Right. The danger is on
it's good
the
to
builder
go.
has to get the property up to code.
But what if it doesn't get the certificate of occupancy? Do they then have to do whatever is required to do that?
The builder would, but I mean, I don't know if too
I mean,
many
that's probably a rare
properties-
occurrence.
I don't know too many properties by builders that don't get that CO.
Yeah. So I guess my concern would be if I had sellers with older properties, which always need something.
Well, and let's touch on that older properties here. If you do have an older property, I believe it's 1974 or it's definitely in the mid 70s. You also have to have a lead paint.
Well, 1978 is where they do the lead paint. Anything
Right.
previous to 1978, you have to have the lead paint certification come in and that
Right.
sort of thing, which I've always thought was kind of funny because that whole lead paint thing was inactive, I think, because they thought kids would come and chew on the windowsill.
Hey, some kids will.
Some kids need to be sent to school a little bit, a little better. You're gonna chew on the windowsill. So I guess that's my thing is I'm struggling to see this from the seller side, and I don't know. It bothers me that the city has the ability to come in and tell me you've got to get you can't sell this home as it sits. You've got to get it up to code. Even if the next buyer has nothing to do with the city down payment assistance program.
But, I mean, if you think about it from their perspective, they are contributing $7,500 towards the purchase of it. Ultimately,
they're not contributing anything toward the upgrades or the fixes.
But their goal is they're improving and getting older properties, or any property for that matter, up to code with the city of Huntsville's current code.
But is that really their responsibility to get involved with private home ownership? If it's my house that I'm selling, is it really okay for the city to come in and tell me that I have to do X? I have to spend perhaps tens of thousands of dollars to get it up to their code, or they're going to condemn my private property? I think there's an overstep here.
Think about how much codes have changed in just the last 10 years.
I can think about it all damn day long, and I got to tell you, there's an overstep here. I don't understand that part.
Any training, when the city of Huntsville put the training on, that is kind of the one.
And what's their response?
Yeah, I mean, lenders have always historically hated that part of it because that has been the biggest struggle of ever promoting this product. However, despite that, to say that there's no room for this product or that there's no room for this program to exist and that it doesn't happen, I mean, they've done it over 350 times. There are plenty of homes that have qualified for it, but man, there is definitely that risk involved in there.
Well, that's the thing. I think it's a great program.
You as a listing agent, though, would you ever advise your listing to ever accept a contract like this?
No, I wouldn't.
I mean, even if the home is in immaculate shape,
would
it scare you to do something like this?
Yeah, simply because regardless of whether that person buys the house or not,
they're still on the hook.
They're still on the hook.
Right.
And this would be a great program if that deal fell through, the homeowner doesn't have to make all these upgrades.
Right.
That's the thing I think that irks me, and is I used to be in retail. I've dealt with city building inspectors. They're pretty strict, some bitches, I got to tell you, and I mean that with all due respect. But I can only imagine the repair list that might come from an older home, even if I have an inspector go in ahead of time and do an inspection. I don't know. It's just the whole.
We haven't even got into the electrical and the interior.
Tell us about that.
You have to have no holes or any other damage in the walls. Ceilings can't have holes or cracks, aka settling. That's common. Mm-hmm. Bathroom must have mechanical vent or openable window. Plumbing has to be all fully operational. Smoke detectors. This is one I told you about earlier. All dwellings must have a hardwired electrical smoke detector with a battery backup installed on a separate electrical circuit.
How many houses? I guess new construction does that, but like my house, I've just got the old battery ones.
Here, no other types of smoke detectors are considered grandfathered by the code. So that means that your home has to have a hardwired, on a separate circuit, smoke detector.
Who's going to do that? And if you don't agree to do all this, they have the power to condemn your home.
If this inspector gets out there and sees this, if you've made it this far, you are required then to spend that money to get an electrician to wire that.
And there is where I disconnect with this. Coming out and saying that your house has to meet City of Huntsville building code requirements or we will condemn it. You can't sell it to anyone else as long as the City of Huntsville is involved here.
Yes.
So I see no benefit whatsoever to most sellers. New construction, fine. We'll give them that. But I would think that most of the houses sold in the City of Huntsville are going to go in the older categories because there are no new neighborhoods in the City of Huntsville, are there? I mean, we're talking Hampton Cove and out that way. But if you look at North Huntsville, South Huntsville, those are all older established neighborhoods. I know I sell a ton of those houses, and every one of them needs some work. Sure. And that's fine, but for the City of Huntsville to have the power to come in, even if this deal falls apart and says you can't sell this house to anybody else,
right.
You've got to fix all of this stuff, whether you agree or disagree, or we will condemn the house.
I'll be honest with you.
That is an overstep. I don't care what you say. I love you, but I don't care what you say.
Sure. It's a tough seller to a seller, or a tough sale to a seller.
Yeah, and I do know, I haven't dealt with this personally, but I do know realtors who have, when they've gotten these kind of offers, have advised they tell the seller about it, and then the seller runs screaming.
No, here's the part that I actually want to advise you on. Half the time, no realtor knows about this. So they get into this contract because, hey, who doesn't want to accept a contract on a property?
Right.
That means money's coming.
Right.
So they get into the contract. They throw this in dot loop and have everything signed by everyone. Everyone clicks the buttons because, let's be honest, have you ever really read a finance sales contract?
From start to finish. You bet your ass I do.
How many sellers
Not many.
Do that?
Most of them it's like the instructions on a piece of software you just click.
So by the time you're done, you've signed the document and you don't know what you're already in for.
And does the pre-approval letter have to state this? Because my clients, we don't sign anything without pre-approval and knowing about the funding.
No,
but most realtors don't.
Because the way that your pre-approval is going to read is if we are going to have, let's say we're doing an FHA program with 3.5% down, that pre-approval letter is only going to show that you are approved for an FHA, 3.5% down. It's going to show you as if the buyer's coming to the table with that 3.5% down. Now, you can probably do an addendum to it and get a little bit more specific, and that's probably necessary.
Yeah.
But no, for the most part, until this goes out through the dot loop system with that original contract.
But it's not going to be valid until myself and my seller sign that form.
That's correct.
So that's when we know if I get this form through dot loop or however it's submitted to me, I know this is that. And until this is signed, regardless of whether or not the contract is signed.
Well, let's look at it this way also. I mean, ideally, I have to underwrite this program first before we're even going to send it off.
Yeah, you better tell me if one of these things pass across your
desk. By
desk
that time, though, we've already done appraisal. By that time, you've already probably had your own home inspection. If you see things going south at that point, you can always get out of the contract before we ever send this to the City of Huntsville. Okay? So that's one saving grace that you would have as a seller for a peace of mind. Until this actually goes out to the City of Huntsville, which cannot happen until we've collected all documents, until appraisal's back, until we have a conditional approval, this does not go to City of Huntsville.
So let's back up here. So what you're saying is we go through the process as we normally would.
Yes.
There are, I guess the buyer is going to ask for an inspection.
Typically, yes.
So that inspection is going to be done. Then there's a back and forth for the request for repairs or what have you. If that all settles in, you, the lender, then send out the appraisal,
right?
The appraiser, and then it's decided whether or not we do this?
this is not becoming effective until I send this package to the city of Huntsville. So until then, it never leaves my hands.
So really, by then, the normal inspection's been done.
Correct.
And we know what needs to be repaired. So then at least, and that makes a difference because we're not locked in up front.
It does, but it still doesn't take away that inspector could have a different perspective on that property than what that home inspector did.
Right, but we've got a good idea at that point.
You at least know if
because
it's going to be.
I got to tell you, these home inspectors that we use, they're some thorough guys.
They
right
are.
There, they really are. So that makes a difference. So the seller does have an out, even if you're up to the point where you're ready to do this. If he doesn't sign this, we don't have a deal.
Yeah, I mean, that's a part of the contract. I can't begin underwriting it for this program
until
we don't
this
have
is
a
signed.
Signature signed. Yeah, this would need to be signed at the time.
Okay,
of the
well
contract.
then we go back to what I was saying before. So if I'm representing the seller and we get the contracts from the buying agent, we get the offer. This piece of paper here has to accompany that contract.
Well, I mean, if it doesn't, then I think that's kind of shady. You want them to know up front before they even agree to sign a sales contract, this could potentially be coming. Now, most contracts do have a clause that it's subject to the satisfactory home inspection. Doesn't mean this inspection, it means the home inspection. So at that point, if you don't have a satisfactory contract because the property doesn't it doesn't inspect well.
Right.
I mean, you can always cancel the contract at that point
before this is signed.
No.
This is the piece of paper?
Before this goes to the city of Huntsville. Because I have to hold the package, underwrite the file, get our conditional approval. Now, traditionally, this conditional approval is going to come within the first 15 days of your loan going in. So you have about 15 days before this goes to the city of Huntsville.
But the bottom line is my seller is going to know that this is an underwriter, this is a down payment assistance program, simply because they're being asked to sign this.
They need to know
at
that
some point in the process.
I would say at the time that you get your initial contract signed.
If the agent sends us that.
If they don't.
They don't, they're in violation. Let's condemn their house. How about that? Yeah. Well, as long as there's an out. But I just think it's it's just an overstep.
I, as a lender, wouldn't send this package out to Huntsville and put any homeowner in jeopardy unless I've had a thorough conversation. That just goes back to what lender are you working with. There are multiple lenders approved for this. How many want to do this program? I'd say there's probably more that want to stay away from it than that want to actually go into it. Yeah. Just because it is a slippery slope when you start getting into the programs of what is on the hook for the seller. Yeah. And you really have to be careful because the worst thing that you could do is put somebody into a financial strain that doesn't have the money to get there.
Right. And let's be honest, there are realtors out there who would submit this kind of contract and never say a word. You know who you are. They try to slide it in. But if this piece of paper passed my desk, I would be really hard-pressed to advise my seller to participate.
So you're pretty in-depth when you see your pre-approvals come
through? I look at everything because I want to know, not only that things are pre-approved, but what kind of funding it is. Is it VA? Is it FHA? Because it's going to make a difference. Okay. I'm involved at every step like that, and I don't read the finance sales contract word for word, but I know the important parts to read.
Absolutely.
So, if I saw this come through to one of my sellers as part of an offer, that would be a big red flag. I mean, I would have to literally sit down and explain all this to them. And again, knowing just the clients I've worked with, I don't know of a single one who would agree to participate in this simply because of that. Even if this deal doesn't work out, the city can condemn your home. Right. The city has no business being involved in that side of residential real estate. I'm sorry. Just my opinion, but it's my show. If you want to tell your opinion, get your own show.
I see what you did there. Yeah.
You like that? Anyway, we will put a link to more. It is the down payment assistance program. I'm not saying it's a bad thing for the buyer. I think it's great for the buyer. I just think there's such a slippery slope for the seller. I would be hard-pressed recommending my clients accept
And again,
this.
let me repeat, it's a great program for new construction.
For new construction,
It's a
because all it
fantastic
requires is the certificate of occupancy.
Yes.
So that's something to keep in mind as well. But we will put a link below. I guess we can include these materials as downloadable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll put a link below where you can get everything that we've been talking about here today. What do you got going on at the mortgage firm these days?
We are
You're
heating
busy.
up. It is busy right
Yep.
now. I
Same
mean, we've
here.
got a lot of buyers that are getting into their homes, a lot of sellers looking for new homes. I mean, this is the time, this market, within the last 30 days, I mean, it is just exploded.
Yeah, it really has. We have, 15, 16 listings out of this office. We're working with like 25 buyers.
What's your average time on the market? Like 2 hours?
I got to tell you, I sold a house the other day on Gatsby. It was literally less than a day.
That's incredible.
And then we've got this house on Belmead that people are fighting over because very smart seller. It's priced exactly right. It's actually priced under market, and people are lining up. We actually had an offer on that one in 4 hours the other day.
Amazing.
So it's crazy. Good houses in good condition, in good locations. The market is heating up. So how do folks get in touch with you?
You can go online to themortgagefirm.com/Huntsville or give us a call at 256-705-3476.
Yeah, call Stephen and find out why we call him the Miracle Man.
There you go.
And he'll explain this crappy program to you, I'm sure.
You're terrible.
I don't get it. So, hey, if I can do anything for you when it comes to real estate, including reading all the fine print on the documents,
Yes.
give me a call, 679-0704, revolved.com. It's been fun, buddy.
It has.
I'm heated up, man.
Let's do this.
I'm heated up. We'll see you next time.